forgiveness being given for him for that act. Also, we benefit from this hadith, ta'zeemu sha'n ad-dima, how Islam magnifies the affair of people's blood and spilling it. وهي من الكليات والضروريات التي عظمتها جميع الأديان والسماوية. He says that this issue of the affair of people's blood and spilling it, that every complete aspect of it and the necessary requirements connected to it, you find is that which has been magnified by all of the heavenly religions that came down, prohibiting killing. As Ibn al-Arabi says, إِنَّ قَتْلَ الْبَهَائِمْ بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ لَمُوجِبٌ ذَنْبٍ عَظِيمًا. He says, for example, Ibn al-Arabi, that truly killing cattle, ducks, killing camels, killing cows, sheep, and like this. Killing any of these animals without rightfully doing so requires one to fall into a major sin. So he says, فَكَيْفَ قَتْلَ الْآدَمِي. He says, then how much more is the case with killing a human being? الَّذِي لَوْ وُزِنَ بِالدُّنْيَا بِأَسْرِهَا لَرَجَحَهَا. Like he said, how much more is the case of killing a human being? The one who, if what you done was to be weighed to the worldly life and all that which it contains, that would outweigh it. That would outweigh it in severity. It's a severe sin, as the Prophet, as Allah mentions, whoever kills a soul unjustly, it is as if he's killed all of mankind. This is a serious sin. Ibn al-Qayyim, he mentions about the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he says, "Man qatala mu'ahada lam yurih ra'ihat al-jannah." That the Prophet said in this hadith that whoever kills a person who has a covenant in a country with the Muslims, or has a covenant that their blood is sacred, that they're not to be killed, they're not an enemy, and whoever kills that person, then he will not smell the fragrance of Jannah. Meaning, the Prophet gave the example, say he won't smell the fragrance of Jannah, meaning he won't be nowhere near the paradise. He says, Ibn al-Qayyim, after quoting this hadith, he said, هذه عقوبة قاتل العدو الله. He says, this is the punishment for the person who kills the enemy of Allah. We talk about a non-Muslim living in a Muslim country, and he has protection by the government. If he get killed by a Muslim, that Muslim will not smell the fragrance of paradise. Shaykh Ibn al-Qayyim says that this is the punishment for the killer of an enemy of Allah. عدو الله إذا كان في عهده, when he's a person who has this covenant. وأمانه, and he has this safety and security. فكيف عقوبة قاتل عبده المؤمن. He says, and how much more is the case of killing, the punishment for killing a slave of Allah who is a believer. Who is a believer. Islam has placed much value on the blood of the Muslim. That the Muslims themselves don't take value in the blood of each other. In Islam, if you kill a Muslim unintentionally, and you play blood money, you have to give 1,000 camels. 100 camels, 100 camels. Pay the price, that which is equal to 100 camels, or give 100 camels. Has anybody know the price of a camel today? We talk about maybe $500-something thousand or pounds. It's expensive. One camel, almost $1,000 or pounds or more. One. Talk about 100. It's a lot of money. That's how valuable the blood of a believer is. The next hadith of the Shaykh bringing we in with this hadith is hadith Rabi' wa Thalathun, hadith number 34. And that is the hadith of Adi ibn Hatim رضي الله تعالى عنه أن رجلا خطب عند النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال الرجل من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فقد غوى فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بئس الخطيب أنت قل ومن يعص الله ورسوله. The Shaykh, he says, this hadith number 34, on authority of Adi, the son of Hatim, may Allah the Exalted be pleased with him, that a man gave an address near the Prophet, a sermon, and he said, the man, whoever obeys Allah and his messenger, truly he is guided, and whoever disobeys both of them, then truly he's astray. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on hearing that, said to the man, what an evil speaker you are. What a wicked speaker you are. Say instead, whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger. Akhrajahu Muslim. This hadith is narrated by Muslim. We're going to mention his benefit because there's only a few. He says, the Prophet's statement that a man gave a sermon before the Prophet, in front of the Prophet. He says, the benefit from this, جواز تكلم المفضول بحضرة الفاضل والمتعلم بحضرة المعلم إذا أذن له. And that is the permissibility of a person who's less virtuous to speak in the presence of someone who's more virtuous than him in knowledge. And the permissibility of the student speaking in the presence of his teacher if they give permission for him to do so. We benefit that. The statement of the Prophet, Bitsa, what a wicked speaker you are, what a wicked sermon giver you are. We benefit from that. المبادرة إلى تنبيه المتكلم بخاصة إذا كان كلامه بمسمع جمع من الناس لأن خطأه يتعدى إلى من يسمعه ويبلغه. He says, the hastening towards bringing notification to the speaker when he says something that's wrong, specifically if his wrong speech can reach a gathering of people they're hearing, that you should correct him immediately. Because his error, if it transcends over to those, it can transcend over to the people who's listening and it can reach them. And you don't want them to leave with doing that error. So you correct it on the spot. And this goes back to what we said before, is that the deen of Islam, our first loyalty is to the religion. The Quran and Sunnah. If somebody says something that opposes it, we refute that error. But it don't necessitate we refute the person. We refute the person. We refute that error. We correct that individual. We correct that individual. And sometimes you do it with harshness so the person can see the severity of his error. And some people don't like that. When you correct them, when they're doing something that they know better than. Like the Prophet only correct a person who he knows know better with severity. So that he can see the seriousness of what he has said or what he has done. So here we see in Islam, if somebody says something that opposes the truth and his speech reached the people, we don't go to him and advise him, you should say that. We correct it immediately because we don't want the people to leave with his error once it has spread. But if his speech didn't reach the people, we know he made an error, we advise the brother. Actually, that's wrong because of A, B, C, D, like this. And this is the deen of Islam. And honoring brotherhood even on this minute level. And loving and to defend the religion. Also, we benefit from this statement, أن على من أراد الكلام في مجامع الناس أن يجتنب غموض الألفاظ وما يعصر فهمه على السامعين. He says that it is upon the one who intends to give a speech to the people, in the gatherings of the people, that he avoid obscure wordings, words that the people, it'll confuse them. Or it will make it difficult for them to understand, or make it difficult for the listeners to understand. To be cautious of that. Also, we benefit from this hadith, أن على الخطيب قبول أن على الخطيب قبول يعني لأنه هو منسوب متأخر من أن ما يرشد إليه من أهل العلم. He says that it is upon the sermon giver, the speaker. It is upon him or her that he accept the directions that is given to him from the people of knowledge when he slips up. He must accept it when the people of knowledge advise him. Last benefit of this hadith is أن على من يرتقي المنابر, that it is upon whoever wants to elevate onto the minbar, onto the podium to speak, أن يعنى بشأن الخطبة ويبذل جهده في إعدادها حتى ينفع نفسه وسامعه ومن بلغ. He says that it is upon the one who elevates upon the podium, that he concerned himself with the affair of his lecture, his sermon, and he puts the greatest effort forward to prepare it until the point he can benefit himself with it and benefit the listener with it and whomever else it may reach. And it's the end of what he brings from this hadith, and we're going to end with this hadith. But we have to make clear the reason why the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the man, "Bitsa khatiba anta," what an evil and wicked sermon giver you are, because he committed shirk in his statements. Remember, shirk take place in 3 areas: in your statements, in your actions, and in your heart. And the Quran and Sunnah has come to show us how to avoid committing shirk in all 3 areas. You commit shirk on your tongue, you commit shirk in your heart, and you can commit shirk on your limbs. And the worst shirk is the one you do in your heart. The one that happens off the tongue and the one that happens on the limbs oftentimes falls into minor shirk. Like the case with this man. This is shirk al-asghar, minor shirk. And that shirk that he is making, he made shirk with his tongue. And that is when he made the Prophet, Allah and his messenger equal. Whereas in the first part of the statement, the man said, whoever obeys Allah and the messenger. He separated them with the word and. But in the second statement, he said, and whoever disobeys the 2 of them, he made them equal, then he is astray. So the Prophet wanted to correct the shirk in his statement and call them back to Tawheed. He says, Bi'sa khatiba al-khatibu anta. What an evil sermon giver you are. What a wicked sermon giver you are. Qul, say instead, وَمَن يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. Say instead that whoever disobeys Allah and the messenger, because they are not equal. Allah, we worship and love him, magnify him, extol him for himself. Everything else other than Allah, we love for the sake of Allah. And the messenger first and foremost. We love him greater than our own selves. We will follow him and obey him blindly, but we worship Allah out of love and reverence. We obey the messenger and follow him blindly and love him and reverence him because of Allah sending him and ordering us to do that. So the deen of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala in this hadith teaches us the importance how the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gathered between purifying the religion from that which can taint it, and then cultivating the people on that purity, as he did in this hadith. He did both of them, tasfiyah wa tarbiyah, at one time. He corrected the wrong, and then he cultivated him on what's right. Rather say, whoever disobey Allah and his messenger. And this is how the deen of Islam flourished, when our da'wah was based upon these 2 qualities. Purifying the religion from that which tainted in our actions and our hearts and our statements and our behaviors. And then cultivating the people on that purity, right way. So you refute wrong, you come with that which is opposite of it and that which is correct. And this is what the hadith was intending. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وما كان زللا وخطأ فمني والشيطان وما كان صوابا فمن الله فإن الله ورسوله بريئان من أخطائي. Whatever I said that was mistaken and wrong was from me and the shaitan, and whatever I said that was accurate and correct truly was from Allah. For indeed Allah and his messenger is free from my mistakes. If there's any questions, tafaddalu mashkureen. If there's any questions, come on with your question. Faddal.
I've got a question, bro. You talked earlier on about the way the scholars choose the leaders in the Islamic government. And scholars then are they nominated by the people, or are they how do they get to the position? How are they representative of people? That's what
basically, how did they become the scholars?
Yeah, because you mentioned that they represent the people, right?
Yeah, they represent the Muslims.
The Muslims, yeah.
In a different way, you have to understand, it's totally opposite of the society and the world. This world is evil that we live in today. The governments are upon evil. Islam is the total opposite of this, from Allah's legislation. Scholasticism is chosen through a person studying Islam and learning the religion and becoming known for his practice of it and defending it and spreading it and aiding that which supports the spread of it and aiding the refuting and the disparagement of that which opposes it. When a person becomes known for this, it sticks out like a sore thumb. In other words, it's the actions. It's the actions. And that's the deen of Islam. This is why we judge each other by each other's actions, not what people say or what one body say or what that individual say, but we look at their actions, what their actions say to us. What is their actions representing? If their actions is representing Sunnah, we take it from it and accept it. If there's opposed Sunnah, we reject it from it. And no one represents the truth better than the people of knowledge. And that's one of the failures of today. We don't have people of knowledge in our communities to see the trueness, the true greatness of Islam. Islam is a religion that can only be seen through application. I give you a case in point. the Prophet ﷺ one day comes to his house, and Aisha, he stops at the door and he won't enter, and his face changing colors. And Aisha said, I seek refuge with Allah from that which angers Allah and His Messenger. Why did she say that? And the man didn't say anything to her, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said that because he showed them in his action loving for Allah and hating for Allah. She knew whatever made the Prophet's face red, without him saying anything, that is something that's making Allah angry. And I got to stop it right there. So she sought refuge immediately. And then she said, asked what she did, and the Prophet showed her. She had drapes hanging in her house that had pictures of animals on it. That he said, he won't enter unless she removed those pictures. So she took them down, cut them up, and turned them into pillows. And so the Prophet accustomed them to what it really, he showed them loving for Allah and hating for Allah. I remember when I first learned this hadith, I understood it. But when I lived with a scholar who lives his life like that, I really understood it. It's another thing to read, but it's a whole other thing when you experience it. This is why we have, the Prophet said, لَيْسَ الْخَبْرُ كَالْمُعَيَّنَةِ. Experience cannot touch, witnessing, information cannot touch experiencing. Information cannot touch witnessing. And that's what every community in these times is void of, a cultivator. A cultivator. This is why you see communities more concerned with beautifying a masjid than purifying the hearts of the people in the masjid. They put money towards building a beautiful masjid, but they won't put money towards bringing someone to cultivate them and aid them and remove them from the evilness of what will save them from the hellfire. Because our minds is gone. We don't have these examples, and we don't see this greatness of Islam. We're during the time of the Prophet and the Sahaba, you had scholars in every area, people of knowledge in every area, and that this is what they did. So this is why when we said yesterday, when Abu Darda would come and teach the Quran, he had over 1,600 people there. We don't see stuff like that today in no country. Or Ahmed ibn Hanbal would give a dars, so you got over 10,000 people there, and only a few of them would be students of knowledge. Majority of them was common people. They weren't even students of knowledge. Shaitan, one of the tricks of Shaitan to the common folk is to think sitting constantly in classes is for students of knowledge, it's not for the common people. This is so far from the truth. The Prophet made the cure of all the problems of his ummah through knowledge, no other cure, and cultivating the people in the knowledge. But we don't see that. We think it's in more money, more organization, more this, more that. Those are, as we said earlier, subsidiary aiders. They're not the core thing that's going to alter the people and change them. Like, you know, for example, the stuff you've been hearing us say in this class. You ever heard stuff like that before? No. Because knowledge is few in these days, ignorance is rampant. And people live their lives and judge according to that. So we make dua for the Muslims that they see the virtues of knowledge and the importance of having a person of knowledge amongst them. Allah help us. Any other questions?
Yeah. What happened about the companion that you said the Prophet ﷺ didn't talk to him for 52 days?
Prophet didn't speak to him because he was waiting for Allah to reveal revelation, to give permission, to show that he's been forgiven for not fighting in the battle. You know, the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith that you asked about, he illustrated beautifully for his companions what it means to live a life of La ilaha illallah, which is loving for Allah, hating for Allah, giving for Allah, hindering for Allah. So they understood this. This is why his wife wouldn't speak to him. We don't understand that. In that sense, loving for Allah, hating for Allah. I'll give you a case in point. You can come into a masjid and you see a person lead the salah who ain't got no hair on his face. We don't hate that person, that's that open sin. Because we don't really hate for Allah and love for Allah. Because we don't have knowledge, and we don't have people of knowledge amongst us. So we see errors and things that take place that's diametrically against the Quran and the Sunnah. But because the people is not concerned with knowledge, we get what we get. So you saw during the time of the Prophet ﷺ that Ka'b ibn Malik, his companions, he cultivated them like this. Loving for Allah, hating for Allah, being obedient to Allah and His Messenger, even during difficulty times like this hadith. Because Ka'b was boycotted. And when Ka'b was boycotted, it reached across all the neighboring areas that one of the rulers of the disbeliever wrote a letter, a secret letter, and somebody took it and gave it to Ka'b and said, listen, in the letter it said to Ka'b, won't you come join with us and aid our ranks, since they boycotting you like that? He ripped this letter up and threw it away. How many Muslims would do that today? How many Muslims, we say, oh man, support, I'm out. And we laugh, but it's a reality because He did that because he still obeyed Allah and His Messenger during times of difficulty. Love for Allah, hate for Allah. Like just like you love your wife. Your wife do something you don't like. You don't divorce her, take out the house. You be patient with her. But we don't do that with the deen of Allah Ta'ala. This is why our community suffer the way it suffers. Almustaan. Dua for the Muslims. Any other questions?
Sorry, you mentioned earlier about that you need scholars to certify someone is kafir.
Yeah.
And you need to have two conditions.
Okay.
One, and the conditions of that what was leading to do the kufr, for example, maybe associated with something else. You should remove those. What are they? Can you give us an example?
Okay. Condition for a person, for example, to be a kafir. If a person, there's certain actions that no matter what, whether we can remove, we don't even have to use conditions, and we don't have to remove the hindrances, as we mentioned. Like if a person urinates on the Quran, he's a kafir. There's no doubt about that, for example. But example of what you're saying, if a person says a statement of innovation, for example, he said, or say a statement of kufr. He says that I hate Allah and His Messenger, which is a statement of kufr. First, we got to make sure all the conditions is present that make sure he's a kafir. Did he say this from his heart and know what he was saying? Make sure his intellect is there. He's of sanity. That's the condition that's present. That he has sanity. Because insanity is a hindrance that will hinder him from being a kafir. So at the same time, what condition is going to be opposite of the hindrances. The condition that must be present, he must have sanity, for example. That which will hinder him from being a kafir is insanity. So we have to remove that. Is he insane? Oh, he's insane. Okay, that's a Muslim, for example. Another example of that is if a person says a statement of innovation. Like Imam al-Za'i said that Allah had a beard. He said this about Allah. It's a wrong statement. He's wrong. But do we call him an innovator? No. We find that Imam al-Za'i made this statement because he understood something from the religion to think that's correct. And nobody never corrected it because it was in his books and nobody never from the scholars saw it to correct it. So could we call him an innovator because of that? La. Because the condition for him to be an innovator is that he has to know that that thing is wrong. He must not have something that he understood to give that understanding. Okay? Because one of the things he used to understand that Allah created mankind, the Prophet said Allah created the human being in His image. Okay? He used this to prove that Allah loves a beard, so Allah must have a beard. This is an interpretation. This is a statement, so does he innovate? La. This is what he interpreted. Nobody ever corrected it. So first we have to make sure he know that what he said is wrong. That's a condition. And the hindrance in regards to that is that he knew it was wrong. That he was ignorant of what he was saying. He didn't falsely interpret something. So I have to remove that hindrance and make sure the conditions exist. So that's an example of that, you know. But these are principles in the religion that's established from the Quran and Sunnah. Not only the ulama and their students understand them, but we leave that making takfir of a Muslim for the scholars. And even the scholars avoid it in spite of that. Because that's a dangerous statement. Because if he's wrong, it comes back at him. Like, for example, Qaddafi. The ulama different whether he was a kafir or not. Some scholars said he was a kafir. Some scholars said, no, he's a Muslim, but just extremely astray. You know, because ulama afraid of, that's the other thing. The person reason why we say ulama has to be known for his taqwa, known for his fear of Allah, known for his piousness, known for his judging without his whims and desires, that scholar. So this is why we say to the ulama, a person from the major scholars who become known for this, these individuals, we know he's not going to make a judgment from his desires. He become known for that. Like this, he's going to be based off of knowledge. Like this. So this is why, then secondly, a scholar, if he make a mistake in calling somebody a kafir, and he based it on Quran and Sunnah, he's going to be forgiven by Allah and rewarded once. Because the Prophet said, إِذَا حَكَمَ حَاكَمْ فَلَهُ أَجْرٌ وَأَصَابَ فَلَهُ أَجْرٌ. That if the ruler or the person of knowledge make a judgment, he gets 2 rewards if he's correct. وَإِنْ أَخْطَأَ فَلَهُ أَجْرٌ. And if he make a mistake, he's forgiven for his mistake. because he judged with the Quran and the Sunnah. He had knowledge to make that judgment. He wasn't going off his whims and desires. He just made an error, but he's still rewarded, which isn't the case for anyone else other than the scholar. He makes a judgment. He follows usually his whims and desires. He don't have the knowledge to judge from the Quran and the Sunnah. And then secondly, he has to become known. See, part of the attribute of a person reaching the highest level of being a major scholar is that he become known for not being hasty. He become known for not being an individual who speaks without investigating and stuff like this. He become known for this. Doesn't mean he won't make a mistake, but he become known for these type of qualities and attributes. This is the person, as the more he become known for that, the greater his status raise up in scholasticism. And that's the difference between a student of knowledge and a major scholar. He has more experience in knowledge than the student. They might have learned the same knowledge, have the same knowledge as far as information, but the one who with that experience with the knowledge and that patience and making known for making just verdicts and so on and so forth cannot be compared to someone who just have knowledge and new on the scene and he doesn't have the same experience. And that's how we judge the difference. Just like in a doctor. What makes a major doctor his long experience with practicing and being successful. And in comparison to an internship, person going through an internship, he has to earn that through his internship. Likewise in Islam with scholasticism and so on and so forth. Okay? He had a question. So what's your question?
Yeah, my question is so much, man. Because this is something that is very, very pertinent to my environment.
No.
Is calling to a group, is it wrong?
College?
Calling to a group. For example, in university, we have this Saudi club. This no, they said we are club of Saudis, and they try to do religious activity within themselves. But we also have the Muslim society. Is that also okay?
What we mean by calling to a group, meaning you calling to a group of people to a particular methodology.
Religion?
And you separating the Muslims into various groups like that. This is not permissible in Islam. Okay. As Allah prohibited all through the Quran.
What about if we call to nationality? Okay, groups. No.
All of that. None of that. All of that is not permissible. You only can call to the Quran and the Sunnah. As the Prophet ﷺ, this all based from the Hadeeth that's recorded by Imam Muslim in his Sahih, that one time during the time of the Prophet, one of the companions was playing with another Ansar, a young person from the Ansar, was playing with a companion from the Muhajir, and he struck him in his back and hurt him. And he became angry and they started to argue. And so the Ansar started to say, Ya Ansar, oh Ansars, come help me against this Muhajir. And the Muhajir said, oh Muhajir, come help me against the Ansar. And these two praiseworthy terms, being a Muhajir is praiseworthy, being an Ansar is praiseworthy. But when it's used to separate the believers, then this is haram. And the Prophet came out and said, what is this call? The call of Jahiliyyah. This filthy, funky call that you're calling to. So the Prophet disdained it and called it a call of ignorance. So this is the origin, the first evidence that comes about Hizbiyah from the Hadith. And we got many texts from the Quran. As Allah Ta'ala says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا شِيَعًا, and do not be factions and groups. As Allah told his Prophet, لَسْتَ مِنْهُمْ مِنْ شَيْءٍ, you will have nothing to you, free from them, O Muhammad. Likewise, those who follow his path. As we see the Muslims break into factions, into parties, into groups, all of this is false. Jama'at, all of this is not from the deen because they develop their own little principles for their group. And they make loyalty based on it and make disloyalty based upon it. We only give that loyalty to the Prophet and disloyalty to that which opposes his sunnah. We all Muslims. We don't call to no group or no party. Only time separation become permissible is if a people call into some deviancy and you have to defending that deviancy, we warn against them and their deviancy. We separate, this type of separation is praiseworthy. But if we causing separation on our own agendas or because I want to call to my sheikh and my sheikh way, this is not permissible.
Okay, Sheikh, second, sorry. In the university, we are trying to get a bigger center. People come to me, we need to demonstrate. I say, no, demonstration is not now. It's kufr. We don't need to do that.
Why you got to demonstrate?
I don't know. You want to get, this center is very small, but we want to get a bigger space. Because we have like 300, 400 students who are Muslim on campus, but most of them don't come to the center to pray because it's very small. Okay. But we are trying to get it bigger. But say, let's block the gates. Let's block everywhere. Let's stop the factions from
civil disobedience.
I said, no, that is not allowed. I said, how are you different from Syria and Libya and stuff? No. They said, okay, if you cannot do that, let's go and call BBC and radio. I said, no, we can't do that. But you mentioned something now. If each student, because they've been telling me, what's the alternative? I said, I've got no alternative, but I know this is wrong. I don't know how the alternative, but I know it's wrong. I always tell them, look, the Prophet said, gentleness will never be bestowed on anything, it beautifies it. Ooh. There's always a better way of getting things done. You cannot do good with bad. No, it's wrong. We have people who have cultures, but what I'm going to, you mentioned something that if the members and everybody write a letter to the Vice Chancellor personally, is that allowed?
That's what I was going to say to you. If you want something done, you go to the people in authority and you come to them with something on paper, with what the students from amongst you want, and bring the benefits of what, how
they're not responding.
How?
We've done that several times. I've had meetings with almost everybody on campus. They keep saying, no, we're going to do it for you. But they have this kind of concept. If you don't do something bad, they're not going to do something good. In the heat, I try to do something, not bad really, but I bend the rule a little bit. So they give us a center. We've applied for the center. It's a very big hall, sport hall. But it's going to be raining on the day of heat. Give us the sport hall. They said, no, it's for commercial. So I brought in a commercial marquee. That space is prohibited, but we have to put it down there.
Well, that's using wisdom. Same thing, you can apply that. But long as it's not something where you protesting or openly speaking against them, if you know that the school moves and do things because of publicly putting stuff out, you can publicly put out what y'all want to do and see how we want advice from the people in the school and so on and so forth, and see how that affects them. If that will affect them, that's permissible to do in that instance. But it's different from protesting against them and so on and so forth. That's not from the Sunnah part. See, remember, this society is based on kufr. This is how things get done in these societies. Oftentimes doing that which is against our religion to do. And we can play around that as long as we don't pose the Quran and Sunnah.
What is the full meaning of Muqtada?
Innovator. Innovator. A person of innovation.
No, so say something a lot of people do is petitions. Is that allowed?
What is that?
Petitions, just getting people's signatures.
Yeah, that's permissible, totally permissible.
Abdul Fattah, have you done that?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do now. If you're getting people's signature, because it will be more effective. Everybody write email to the Vice Chancellor. 200 million at a go, junk his inbox, 200 emails. Same thing, we need...
You just got to see, when you think of it's a book written by a Kafir called Michael or Mark Schwartz. It's entitled The Magic of Thinking Big. And he talks about psychologically how the mind is created, your subliminal mind, that whatever you feed it becomes a reality for the person. If you feed it negativity, it will produce negativity. You feed it positivity, it will produce positive. So if you sit back and think about many other techniques other than doing that which Allah and His Messenger prohibit us doing, you will come up with ideas. And then you pursue those ideas. There's many methods that you can do. You just got to, because I don't know the detailedness of the university and how things ran. Just think about it. Sit back and think about ways you can do things. If you know certain things got to be done to excite them to get what you want, you try to do it through halal means. You just got to sit back and think about it. That's why Allah gave us our intellect to use it in obedience. And if you try to use it in obedience, you'll find solutions, wallahi. That's how the mind is made. It's going to find a solution. Like I know in the book, he gave an example of a lady who had a chain of stores, of warehouse store. And she only had a business for 5 years and it flourished. And they asked him when he interviewed her, he said, most businesses fail in its first 2 to 5 years. How did you flourish? He said, well, I didn't give up. She said, she gave an example. She said, I had a product, a toy that I was selling in my hardware store. It's a hardware store for children, a toy. And she said, the toy wasn't selling at all. And I was about to give up and just send the toy back and won't sell it anymore. Then I thought, my mother always raised me, she said, to think, before you give up, how can I fix this? And every time I thought of a solution, I always came up with one. She said, so I went outside, and I would watch the product, where it was at, and I would watch the customers as they come in. And I saw a lady walk in the store with a child. And when she walked past the toy, I noticed she didn't grab the toy for her child to look at it. And she said, I thought, the reason why my toy is not selling, because I don't have it at the length level of the child. Because the parent didn't come in to buy a toy, he came in to buy hardware. So if I want to sell a toy, I got to make it visible for the child. And she said, as soon as I moved it from the upper shelf for the parent to see to a lower shelf for the child to see it, it sold like hotcakes, she said. So she thought of a solution before she dwelt on the problem. And this is the same thing with everything, positive thinking. In Islam, actually part of Tawheed is being pessimistic. Part of Tawheed, like during the time of the Arab, they used to come out, they saw a bird flying to the left, they said they gonna be bad. They was optimistic, sorry. They was pessimistic. But if the bird flew right, they was optimistic. Islam, part of our belief in Tawheed is being optimistic about things. Because it's in the hands of Allah Ta'ala. And if it don't work, we say Allah didn't want it for us. We don't get pessimistic like this. But saying so in Islam is to be pessimistic. You just got to sit back and use this intellect for what it was created for, first and foremost, which is to use it to understand a religion and practice it. So you use your mind to think about that which pleases Allah Ta'ala and only earn what He wants from us from His obedience, you'll find it. But if you're negative, you'll do the haram. Oh man, the religion just is closing all the doors. I can't do nothing, man. You think like that, you're gonna your subliminal will tell you, well, you know, Allah forgive you. Just go ahead and do it. This is what happens to us. And we do that for all that which is haram. We think negative about it. It's not our fault that we forced with haram in the West. It's not our fault. It's the kuffar fault. And it's our fault because we don't implement Islam and rule. But when the kuffar rule, they're not following Islam. So they're going to rule with that which is haram. It's not that it's a lot of haram. It's just that a lot of it is practiced. Because if we was ruling the earth, only the halal would be practiced. So we wouldn't even be thinking about the haram. So you can't blame the religion. Blame the circumstances. Say you think positive. You'll find solutions that's halal. Inshallah ta'ala.
Can I ask a question outside context?
Last question.
Yeah. You know, it's good to ask before doing. Is it possible to be fasting Monday and Thursday, Thursday fast, and include the Yom Bid, the 13, 14, 15?
Yes, the Prophet,
to do the two together.
His routine of fasting himself,
both of them.
He fasts Ramadan, he fasts Monday and Thursday, and he fasts the 3 days of each month.
Yeah.
Which is the 13, 14, 15 on the Islamic calendar, when the moon is full.
Same question, Sheikh. If you see somebody making sujood on a sheet or white handkerchief beside you and a jama'ah, how do you correct him?
So he's advised them after they finish praying.
Just call him.
But why they pray? Because maybe affection. Maybe
I think it's a Shia. I don't understand.
Oh, they usually put a rock though.
You know, this one is. I think it's still a young Shia. It's not.
Not a strong Shia.
Because you always hide it. He doesn't want people to see. But I caught him, man. He used to hide it.
No, because their minhaj, they have to prostrate on something from the earth. So what they do, they put a rock. Or something with dirt. It has dirt on it.
I've seen that. I've kicked this one out. But this one is always. Those I don't like to pray. I said, guy, you're gonna corrupt us, man. There's one I want to pray leading the salah. I said, man, what are you doing? Throw you out, man. You can't lead us, man. You cannot lead us. What? This guy is gonna do kufr. Me? No, not here, man.
When you see if you're in control of the Masjid, it's like stop them.
With the rock, it's easy. Everybody knows it's obvious. With the handkerchief, it's obvious. But this guy.
Well, first you gotta ask him why is he doing it.
It's so secretive. I just caught him today. Just put in the pocket. What do you put in your pocket? But I don't want to do it. I don't know how to correct it. So I want to.
When you ask him, why are you doing it? What is the purpose of the handkerchief? See what he tells you. You know, if he feel like, because I know some people like me, I used to pray in Sheikh Islam's Masjid because it's all dirt village, dirt ground. So people track dirt in the Masjid on the road. You sometimes prostrate on dirt, and it irritates me. It may cause me allergies. So I put a mini rug in front of me when I prostrate on it. That's the reason why I'm doing it. So I mean, if that's possible, that could be his reason. So just ask him. If you find this for a wrong reason, you can't do that here. We only practice the sunnah of the Prophet. Till you give me a hadith that the Prophet did it, we accept it. Otherwise, you can't do that here. That's how you deal with that. You don't have to be harsh. Just explain it to him. You know, we only allow the sunnah up in this joint. All right, assalamu alaikum.